We start off with the most important slide, Federal Reserve rate cuts. There are two very important Federal Reserve rate cut cycles that we have seen in the past: the global financial crisis rate cut and the dot-com bust. Now, apart from these two rate cuts, if you examine all the other rate cuts in the past, you can see that the Fed had myriad reasons for cutting rates. Most of them were external in nature. For example, you look at the rate cut here, it was external in nature, it was COVID related. This was just after the Fed started its mid-cycle adjustment rate cut around mid 2019. You had the Great Recession that started off in 07, and somewhere down the line, they figured that it wasn't working well. They had another set of rate cuts with QE that started after the housing market crash. You had the dot-com bubble that started, rate cuts for the dot-com bubble that started in 2000. But somewhere down the line, you had 9/11 and you had additional rate cuts for that. You had a mid-cycle adjustment here, and you had a long Gulf War recession-related rate cut that took place in late 1980s. The second part that we have to understand is Federal Reserve cut rates. Has not really been the most important policy tool of the Federal Reserve all through. The Federal Reserve's Fed rate becomes an important policy tool only after the 1990s, somewhere around the 1987s or so. But for all practical purposes, it looks like the Federal Reserve's policy rate becomes relevant post the 1990s. So any analysis of market reaction of Fed rate cuts or hikes before this period of 1990s, exactly to be specific, around 1987, would not really be very pertinent. Before the 1987, what was the policy tool then? It was largely money supply focused. Money supply was the most important policy target at that point in time. And do remember that the nature of the economy was very different. The Federal Reserve was not really giving forward guidances at that point in time, unlike now, where there are very clear policy guidances that are given. There are policy meetings that are done on a much more frequent basis.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.